of Marketing and Communications Manager at Data Conversion Laboratory, and I will be your moderator today. Next slide, please. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know we will allow time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers. So please write your questions in the chat area as they come to mind. If we don't have time to answer them all, we will make them available on our website. Next slide, please. For those of you who are not familiar with DCL, we convert and organize content to create electronic documents, populate databases, publish on the web, and basically get it ready for tomorrow's technology. Next slide, please. DCL services help you refine your document conversion strategy, identify document redundancy, extract metadata, and transform legacy and future documents for real needs, today and in the future. Next slide, please. We serve a very broad client base. Next slide, please. Spanning all industries. Next slide, please. Today, we are thrilled to introduce our speakers, Dan Dubey, CEO of Digital.XML-based content management and publishing systems. He is best known as co-founder and CEO of DocZone, the industry's first cloud-based XML industries, including telecommunications, trade journal publishing, aviation, automotive, insurance, and software documentation. Dan is a leading authority on the software as a service business model, component content management, XML-first workflows, and single-source publishing systems. Andre Dubey is the founder and CEO of CogniLore and Information Solutions. Drawing on over 20 years of digital publishing product development experience, Andre guides the CogniLore team in the development of software designed to enable the delivery of mission-critical reference content to professional users. CogniLore's flagship software, Professional eBook, is the first multi-platform system designed specifically for the managed distribution of professional-grade content to desktop, web, and mobile platforms. CogniLore's solutions and expertise have made it a go-to resource for major publishers and associations seeking their reference products to clients in the legal, medical, technical, business, and tax and accounting industries. Without further ado, welcome Andre.
Thank you very much, Adam. And just to follow on, I'll add a little bit of additional background on CogniLore and the professional ebook system. So CogniLore has been in business for 15 years. We focus on large volume reference material, primarily bringing that content to digital delivery. And we created the professional ebook system after we identified that users were facing multiple systems over the course of their workday, needed to be able to integrate these together. And we did a system for a major publisher using traditional ePub and eBook-based technologies, and determined that that these technologies were a very poor fit for this kind of large reference content. And we will today be discussing some of these challenges and shortcomings and how to best position your content for digital delivery. So I'll turn it over to Dan to introduce our topic.
Thank you, Andre. And first of all, just in case anybody is curious, even though we share the same last name, Andre and I are absolutely not related to each other. So he's north of the Canadian border, so he pronounces his name Dubé, and I'm Dan Dubey, because from the American pronunciation. The topic for today is delivering DITA content to mobile devices. Over the last decade, corporate technical publications departments have invested heavily in migrating their content away from proprietary authoring and publishing tools, the two of which I've seen the most are FrameMaker and Microsoft Word. And they've moved to implementing the DITA standard for content markup. On the average, these companies have invested hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of dollars into content conversion and the implementation of DITA-based authoring and content management systems. In many ways, these DITA implementation projects have been a huge success, particularly regarding some of the objectives of reusing content at a topic level, and especially reducing the cost of localizing content to multiple languages. But one promise of DITA has often fallen short, and that's the goal of single source publishing. At least from my experience, the majority of technical publications groups are still publishing to print as their primary output format, followed by online help and, in some cases, eBooks. But there's still a major gap that almost all tech publishers have, and that is automated publishing that leverages the power of mobile devices. Even though smartphones and tablets have dominated the industry for the last several years, there's virtually nobody publishing content in a way that fully utilizes the native capabilities of these devices. Instead, they're settling for some of the inherent limitations of PDF or HTML. So in this presentation, we are going to cover 7 content delivery challenges for technical publications, provide some recommendations to help technical publishers to go that last mile to fully leverage your investment in DITA or XML, and deliver native eBooks to popular mobile device platforms like Apple iOS or Android, and explain why ePub or PDF are not always the best choices for delivering DITA content to a mobile device. So if we start with the next slide, please, we'll start with challenge number 1, which is large multi-volume content collections. What we'll see here as we start to go through some of these challenges is we'll be comparing what some of the needs are for technical publications that are different than what you will see with some of the types of trade publications like fiction novels or autobiographies or magazines that are typically supported by the common reader applications like Kindle. It's relatively easy to store and read trade books and magazines on a mobile device because they typically are small publications that are easy to navigate, and people usually read them from cover to cover in a linear fashion. Technical publications collections are another matter. In print form, they typically consist of several volumes and comprise several thousands of pages. Collections of this size present challenges for mobile devices. Tablets and smartphones have limited storage capacity, so it may not always be possible to download the complete collection of content to a specific device. In addition, the memory limitations of these devices make it impractical to load an entire collection into a reading app for browsing content. At best, performance will be very slow. At worst, the app or possibly even the device can crash. So our recommendation is to ensure that your technology solution is a good fit for how your content consumers will use your content. So the format that we'll be using today is, after I describe one of the challenges, Andre will then, using his product as an example, will demonstrate some of these concepts. So in this case now, Andre will demo high-performance navigation in an ebook.
So here we're looking at a professional ebook app with a number of titles loaded into the library view. And for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to work with a prototype document that we created using some Texas Instruments content that shows a technical reference of one of their chips. And the first thing we'll notice about navigating in this type of professional ebook system is it is a continuous flowing environment. So as we scroll through the content, we notice that occasionally we're getting some loading bars coming up at the bottom. And what we're doing is we're loading just the content that we need to display at any one point in time. That means we have a very narrow footprint, so we're able to deliver very high performance content to the window so users get to what they're looking for very quickly. If I go to our table of contents panel, we can see that we can drill down into the content, view the structure and the hierarchy of our product, and then tap on the text to jump directly to a point in the content. And we can see that although we've moved near the end of the content, because we're only loading those little content segments, we get high performance display of that material. And that's true whether it's a 100-page document or a document with many thousands of pages. We're going to get that same navigation performance. If ever we want to know where we are in the content relative to the table of contents, this right-hand side navigator has an indicator on it that we can tap on to show exactly where we are in the structure of the content. And we can also use that navigator as a very rapid means of jumping around the content. So if I click and drag it and I want to go to 410, I can very quickly pull 410 up in my listing and jump exactly to that location. So we're able to get around very quickly within this material. It's very responsive, and that's what we need for this type of client who is looking for information. They want to get to that information as quickly as possible and then move on with their day. Everything that we do as we move around this content is tracked in a history. So everything that we've done, whether it's a navigator or a table of contents jump or a link that we've followed, gets loaded into this history, and then we're able to jump back to that location by just tapping on a history item and getting to that location within the content. Or we can use our navigator to jump straight up to the top. So very, very rapid navigation, able to get to what we're looking for as quickly as possible. Dan?
Thanks, Andre. So challenge number 2 that we'll talk about is complex content. So another major difference between a trade book and a tech pub. Most consumer ebooks are merely an electronic representation of a very simple printed page. These books are usually mostly text, and in some cases they may be accompanied by an occasional illustration or even a small table or chart. Technical content, on the other hand, tends to have more sophisticated layout requirements, including support for large complex tables, math equations, footnotes, sophisticated hyperlinks, and those hyperlinks could be both internal inside the book or external going out to websites, and even other types of complexities that these types of content can have. In addition, to fully utilize the advantages of a mobile delivery platform, technical content consumers would also greatly benefit from a more interactive multimedia presentation format. For example, supplementary video and audio content to be able to click on a link and see a video pop up, ability to navigate to external websites without leaving the application, support for things like interactive tests and quizzes to determine the user's mastery of the content, or group annotations and bookmarks. Our recommendation is to use a content delivery platform that allows you to present your content at its best, and this can extend the reach of your content. So once again, I'll turn it over to Andre to continue his demo, showing some of the available features to really utilize complex content in an optimal way.
So I'm going to switch over this time to the exact same publication that we were looking at on the iPad, but this time for the Windows desktop. And we saw as we were scrolling through a moment ago some of these images, these thumbnails within the content that we can load into what we call the media panel. So the media panel is a way for us to be able to load additional content for better use. We can zoom in and pan within images that we load into the media panel, and we can view other types of complex content. So this is true both for the Windows version of the content and for the iPad. If I bring us back to our iPad view of the material, we'll see that we're able to use this media panel to present a number of different types of complex constructs. So here, for example, we have a table, and it's a long table with a large number of rows, and those become very difficult to manage in mobile presentation layers. So what we've done with our tables is we've actually got a nested table metaphor. So we can actually do a table within a table so that we can scroll through the table separately from the rest of the content. And this allows us to adapt the table regardless of the presentation layer. So here we can see that the table adapts to a much wider presentation if that larger screen becomes available. We've also got the ability to support other types of constructs within the content. So here, for example, near the top, we've inserted a MathML example. So this is actually MathML. We can support MathJax implementations as well. So it's actual content within the presentation layer that allows us to present these complex entities within this particular type of content. And of course, we want to be able to support extending our content beyond simply delivering the product to the user. So we can see that we've created links here at the top that use the media panel to actually load up content from the Texas Instruments website. And we've done it so that it's context aware. So we know that we're sending feedback, in this case, on this particular part number. Or if I load up the Texas Instruments engineer to engineer community, we're actually participating in that community as we would see it on the web browser, loaded within Safari or within Explorer or Chrome. But we've never left the application, so we're able to continue to work with our content and make reference to our external content without ever having to leave that professional ebook environment. And that's a really powerful thing to be able to do to extend our content beyond simply the text. So Media Panel supports images, supports PDF documents, video, audio, everything that you wouldn't find naturally within book content. Back over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Andre. So now we're up to challenge number 3, which is the rapid retrieval of relevant content. And it highlights another difference between a typical trade book and a technical publication. Where a trade book is meant to be read from cover to cover, if we take this scenario one step further, technical publications are not intended to be read from front to back in a linear fashion. In a technical publication, a user accesses the content to find the answer to a question or to learn more about a specific topic. Most reading apps like Kindle or iBooks typically only provide basic full-text keyword search capabilities. This type of query often provides a large quantity of search results, but the user is forced to sift through a massive list of false hits in order to find the most relevant content. This can be very time-consuming and frustrating to the reader. So our recommendation, you need to provide your users with more than a simple find type of search feature that you get from consumer apps like Kindle or Acrobat. You've invested a lot into enriching your content, and your users should have the ability to easily access those rich features of your content. So I'll turn it back over to Andre to show some advanced searching capabilities and easy ways to navigate to search results.
So let's look back at the Windows version again. So the first thing that we'll notice about search within Professional eBook is speed. So if I start to type in a term, we get a list of terms. I can pick the term that I'm looking for, hit search, and we've got instantaneous search results in a ranked view that organizes the content by the relevancy based on an algorithm that looks primarily at result density. We see our hits are highlighted within the content, and I'm able to use a next and previous control to jump from one result to the next. But Professional eBook doesn't just work on the ability to do keyword searches. We support a broad variety of advanced search techniques, including wildcard, Boolean, phrase, proximity, and contextual type searches that allow the users to get access to the information that they're really looking for. So if I start typing CRYS, we can see that we've got 2 words that start with CRYS. If I add an asterisk, we're going to search on both of those terms. So we're searching on both crystal and crystals within the content and generating our search result list. We can see that our content searches through tables, searches through text to get you to exactly what you're looking for extremely quickly. Search results are shown in the table of contents, and we can also sort our search results by reading order as opposed to by rank. When we switch over to the reading order, we can see that we still maintain the ranked position as you're looking through the content. And so you can jump very quickly to the information that you're looking for. Dan, I'll shift over to you.
Okay, our next challenge to discuss is multi-platform support. Today, users work on multiple devices simultaneously. They might work on a Windows PC in the office, take an iPad to a meeting, and view some content on their Android phone at lunch. Many workplaces are now encouraging a bring-your-own-device strategy. As it becomes more common to have users working on multiple devices, there is a growing expectation that the process of going from one device to another will be seamless. With traditional delivery platforms, it's not possible to synchronize bookmarks, annotations, and other useful information in an automated fashion. So our recommendation is to look for a solution that will offer tightly integrated support across multiple platforms. And coincidentally, Andre is prepared to show you that. You've already seen some of it today, jumping back and forth between Windows and Apple in our demos. But Andre will now show that with syncing of content and annotations across those platforms.
So here we'll jump back to our iPad. We'll add an annotation to the content just by selecting the section that we want to annotate, and then selecting Add Annotation to go through our annotation process. So Professional eBook supports the ability to create numerous different types of annotations within the collection, and in our search engine we can actually search by those different annotations. So I'll call this one the DLC webinar. I'll save that annotation, and we'll see that it creates our highlight in that location, and we can continue to scroll on and do the work that we need to do. So at the end of our session, if we log out of our iPad version and we log back into our Windows-based implementation, we see that it synchronizes the user content each time we launch the product. So it's going and it's retrieving the information that has been synchronized, and that synchronization takes place with the history, with our annotations, any type of user content that gets built into the product through the user's use of that particular product. So we can see that it has synchronized our DCL webinar annotation, and shows up in our annotations list with our little context view is our annotation in the Windows product now. So this integrates the two products together and allows them to allows users to pick up where they left off. It's an automated process. It never requires a user to tether their device. It happens all through the cloud and just automatically keeps them up to date as they go through their workday.
Okay, so now we'll move to the next challenge, and yet another big difference between trade books and technical publications. So if somebody is publishing a romance novel, typically they'll write that book one time and it will never be updated. Technical publications are frequently updated on a regularly scheduled basis. For technical publications, and particularly for those companies who've invested in a DITA-based approach to managing content at the component level, there's usually a business objective to release updates at the topic level. Portions of the content will continually be updated over time, and it's desirable to be able to view the differences between versions. Due to the size of these content collections, it's inconvenient for users to download a whole collection with each update cycle. But most ebook apps do not support the ability to only download the specific content topics that have been updated. Furthermore, any interactions like annotations or bookmarks will no longer be available if you download an entirely new version of the content. And then finally, there's no facility within traditional ebook reader apps to highlight differences between versions. So our recommendation is to find a solution that supports updating and versioning of content while also allowing your users to preserve their personalization of that content. So Andre will now do a demonstration of updated content within a reader app.
So that's one of the important reasons why we've all decided to support structures like DITA and XML is our ability to rapidly identify and track changes over time within the content. And Professional eBooks is the first ebook system designed to support those types of segment-level updating. So we can do updating and versioning, so users have the ability to go back to earlier versions, and users are able to receive updates automatically pushed out to their devices that allow them to synchronize their updates and ensure that they have the most up-to-date content. And then XML also allows us to do some interesting stuff with the content once we've got updates in place. So we've created in our sample here a revision history where we've created a couple of changes from revision D to revision E. And if we jump to one of our revisions at 1.3, we can see that we've inserted an icon that allows us to load a differencing presentation in the media panel. So with this differencing presentation, we can show where changes have been made, where insertions have been made, where deletions have been made between these two versions of content. And if I jump back to my revision history, we can see that we can do the same type of thing with tabular content as well. So I can load this table into the media panel, and we can scroll through the table and bring up the location where we've got our change made within the content. So really, Professional eBook is designed to leverage that potential from within your DITA and your XML content, so that we can apply this flexible tool to some really high quality investments that you've made in your content, and create solutions that allow us to automate the push of that content to your products and your users. And we work with partners like Data Conversion Laboratory to create those automated systems to really make it so that you can push this updated content out to your user base. Instead of doing it in paper every quarter or every half year, you can get into monthly pushes or pushes to your user base as often as you want, because it's really turnkey type delivery and fully automated delivery.
Okay, so now let's move to some of the more powerful features of mobile devices and some of the advantages that they bring. And key among this is the power of analytics and user feedback. Imagine how valuable it would be to have the ability to view and track data on how your content is being used by your target audience. This is not really possible with print or online PDF or standard ePub delivery tools. It is possible to collect analytics from viewing web-based help topics, but this is not the most common platform that users use to learn how to use your products. The traditional delivery approaches of print and virtual print are really just essentially a broadcast medium. There are very few ways to obtain any type of feedback from your content consumers. So as a result, the task of information gathering then falls to the marketing department typically, and they use basic data collection tools that really only scratch the surface of what would truly be valuable to a TechPubs department. So we recommend that your solution can answer questions like this. What if you could track how many downloads per day on what devices, and which versions, and which updates? What if you could track which topics in your content are being accessed frequently, which topics are rarely or never accessed? What if you could identify topics that seem to be bookmarked frequently? What if you could see which topics often have notes attached to them? This may be an indication that these topics aren't written clearly enough. What if users could provide direct feedback for a specific topic from within their online reading app? So Andre, I think you have some light to shed on this as well.
Yeah, this was a very important part of the consideration when we were developing the technology. So we wanted to create Professional eBook as two components of the overall system. So we have the presentation layer, which is the components that users use to interact with the content. But we have the back end, which is our Connect system, which manages user and product and title and licensing and subscription access to these products. and it's also responsible for that synchronization of the content between different devices. And so what Connect does is, as that information passes through, we harvest that content. So we harvest the searches that are being done, the sections that are being accessed, the content of the annotations. But we're normalizing it, so we're anonymizing that information, so we can never find out, exactly who put which annotation in which section of the content. But what we can provide back to you is information and analytics about how that content is being used. So you can do search clouds to see what the most important searches are. You can identify what sections are being accessed most commonly within your content. How often is it being accessed? How often is it being launched? How long does it take your user to perform an update of the content when you've pushed it out? So this is all the type of information, this feedback loop with regards to your content that has never existed in that traditionally broadcast mechanism before. So it's really new and really valuable data that you can get back from your content.
Okay, and then finally, the last challenge that I wanted to address is authentication and branding. So those of you who are delivering eBooks today, you're probably using an online marketplace like iBooks or Kindle. When you use these online marketplaces, then you give the opportunity for Apple and Amazon to introduce themselves into the middle of your relationship with your clients. They'll splash their own brand before your users can see your content. In addition, these other reading apps require your clients to create typically another new account with another new password that they have to remember. So our recommendation would be to consider delivering a library that's customized to the specifications of your own organization. So imagine if you could have a set of apps on any platform that have your own branding, your own market presence, that's exclusively set up to deliver your products in a controlled fashion, where you can manage subscriptions and licensing on a server. This can provide the ability to connect to existing authentication systems so that your users can easily and automatically get access to what they are allowed to consume. So this is again, one more time, I'll bring Andre up to show some examples of this type of authentication and branding functionality.
So this is one of the things that we're really excited about, is the ability for Professional eBook to be tuned exactly to your requirements. So it's your icons, it's your splash pages, it's your content. And here we can see one that we've created recently. It just launched yesterday, as a matter of fact, for the Canadian Tax Foundation. So we see that they've got their own icon, they've got their own presence in the App Store. We're actually connected to their third-party authentication system. So their users are using the same username, the same password to log in. There's no need to perform a registration or anything. They simply log into the product, and it will display the titles that they have access to. Pardon me, I'll just get a bit of water. So the advantage of this type of branding and customization is that you're able to get your apps and your products and your user guides and everything customized to exactly how your users are going to use the application. And the same is true for not just the iPad content, but if we look at the Windows version, we've also got the Windows product that works in exactly the same fashion. So I can bring the Windows version in. I can log in using my CTF account, and then we'll connect through the back end directly to the CTF servers. We can then launch our CTF application, and I'll show some of the ways that they've leveraged some of the features within Professional eBook to bring out the best in their content. So this particular title is targeted primarily at tax and accounting professionals. So one of the things that we've done is we've created a marriage between the print version and the digital version by keeping the page numbers intact. So this is exactly the page content for page 3 that would appear in the print. And what that does is it allows citations between the print version and the digital version to be identical. So if you're telling someone who has the print that they need to go look at page 345 or 645 rather, they're able to type in 645 and jump directly to that location within the content, and it doesn't matter whether they're using print or digital version. If we look at the presentation of footnotes, for example, so footnotes in this case have been presented as pop-ups. So we've got the ability to show the footnote directly within context of where it should be located, but it doesn't interfere with the search capabilities or the proximity of the different terms. So it's really a great way to allow people to support footnotes in a very natural and intuitive fashion. We've extended the media panel in this case for them to allow their users to access third-party information resources via the media panel. So in this case, we've got Wolters Kluwer, we've got TaxNet, and Ernst & Young that they're able to link out to. They're able to load the exact application within the media panel, and they can perform their login using that particular product and get access to additional information. So it is a way of extending the content beyond simply the local product to other references and to really create an integrated version of the content externally. For search, they've added the ability to search contextually in this case for a particular case name. So if I change my scope to case name and type in Smith, now it's just searching on Smith where it's being used within a case name. And if we jump to our first result, we can see Smith has the highlight. There's also a highlight on this footnote. And if I click on that footnote, we'll see that Smith also has the highlight within the footnote as well. And if we move from one result to another, we can see that it automatically opens up our footnotes, cycles down to where the hit is for our display. So they've really leveraged the flexibility of the professional ebook system to create a product that's going to be particularly valuable to their users.
Okay, so we thought at this point we've been talking through a lot of concepts, but sometimes it's best to see how those are applied in the real world. So we wanted to present a case study. At this point in time, we're not allowed to name this client because they are still migrating through production release of the application, but we can talk in generalities, and I think perhaps many of you on this call who have gone through a DITA content management implementation can probably relate to some of the things we'll be talking about here. So if we start with the next slide on the challenge that this group faced, this organization made a decision 10 years ago to move away from their proprietary authoring and publishing environment. In their case, they were using FrameMaker for authoring and print publishing, and they were using RoboHelp in an almost completely separate, redundant process to produce online help topics. So this led to a lot of redundant work in authoring, and in particular with localization of that content. And they decided instead to migrate their content to a standards-based environment that was based on DITA, which at the time was a relatively new XML information model. The business objectives of the move were the same as probably many of you have dealt with. They wanted to reuse content all the way down to a low level of granularity like the topic. They wanted to be able to automate their business processes using workflow tools. They wanted to improve version and access controls. They didn't want to store stuff redundantly on file systems and email content back and forth. The big trigger for them, as well as probably many of you, was to be able to reduce localization expenses, and then finally to enable single source publishing to multiple output formats, which back then were primarily print and online help. Next slide. To talk a little bit about their migration process to DITA, this is probably a familiar statement to many of you on this webinar as well. It took longer than expected to migrate to DITA. In their case, it took about 2 years to fully migrate away from using FrameMaker and RoboHelp into a fully DITA-based environment that was authoring and managing components of information in a component content management system. The vast majority, however, of their output is still primarily focused on delivering print PDF and then followed by the online help. In the meantime, in the last 10 years, the user community evolved, and now many users were looking for the ability to easily find relevant content on their mobile devices. The DITA environment that they've invested all that money into wasn't optimized to support this new mobile content paradigm in any type of automated way. So the solution was last year, this organization did a trial project using the CogniLore Professional eBook delivery platform. Their CMS was customized to be able to create a transformation of DITA content that could easily be ingested into Professional eBook. And now, within minutes, they have the ability to produce a fully functional ebook that is optimized to run natively on Apple, Android, and Windows platforms with all the sophisticated search features and automated synchronization and the metrics gathering features that we've been describing over the course of this discussion. So the next steps, now this organization is in the midst of converting all of their documentation over to Professional eBook. After the successful pilot that they executed last year, now they're in the midst over the course of 2015 to migrate all of their content over for mobile delivery using Professional eBook. Their user community is extremely happy with the versatility of the new documentation offerings, and internally the TechPub's management team now has a much clearer view of how the user community is accessing and utilizing their content, which they expect will help them to improve the quality of their deliverables. And I think at this point we'll let Adam take over, and we're ready to take any questions that have been hopefully coming in while we've been talking.
Well, thank you, Dan and Andre. Very informative webinar indeed. The first question that has come in is, annotation is user-specific, group-specific, or not?
Annotations are currently user-specific. So we have a number of group functionality features that are in the roadmap for version 2. But currently, annotations belong to the user, and then you can create as many annotation types and colors as required.
Excellent. The next question that has come in is challenge number 5, comparing versions. Is there a limit on the number of versions that a user can compare? For example, only versions 1.3.4 and 1.3.5, but excluding 1.3.3.
So the user will get the latest version that that gets downloaded when they first get access to the product, and then depending on how you've set up the subscriptions, you can allow them access to earlier versions as well. But if you do skip different versions, we have a migration process that allows the user to integrate the differences between those different versions, and then bring across their annotations where they're impacted, and they can choose whether to keep the annotation, relocate the annotation, or remove the annotation during that migration process. And it handles the consolidation of those changes on the server and delivers the Delta package to the device for integration.
Excellent. Thank you. The next question that's come in is, what platforms do you support?
We currently support iPad, Android, tablet, and Windows as we've seen today. Version 2 will see the release of our handheld platforms as well. So we'll be supporting the Android and iPhone devices, as well as supporting universal Windows deployment as well for Windows 10.
Excellent, thank you. The next question has come in is, can the content be used on the mobile device if the user is not connected on the web?
Yes, absolutely. We have an offline mode that uses the user's existing credentials, or the credentials that they last used when they logged in and downloaded the content. Offline mode is managed by a counter, so whether it's the number of launches of a title or whether it's a time expiry, at which point it removes the content from the device until they log in, connect, and refresh their license. That countdown is managed by publisher by title. So you can say one title, they can launch it 3 times, and then they have to reconnect again, and then on another they can connect and be offline for 100 days before that expiry takes place.
Excellent, thank you. The next question has come in is your solution based on ePub, HTML5, or something else?
Very quickly, yes. We use an ePub-like structure in organizing the data within our builder software and creating the eBook content. But ePub doesn't contain the amount of granularity and the different components that we require to do things like rapid navigation and advanced search capabilities. So we can take ePub and we can extend it and make it very quick to bring into Professional eBook. The presentation layer for the content is HTML5, CSS3, and also supports JavaScript. So anything that you can do within modern web browsers, we can do within the content of Professional eBook. That includes creating embedded apps, mini apps that you can use to do things like calculators, feedback forms, generate animations. It's really a very flexible format that can be tuned to work exactly the way you want to deliver your content.
Yeah, I might just jump in here and to put it in the context of what many of the people on this webinar might be interested in. If you have implemented some type of a component content management system, most of these systems provide you with the ability to render a collection of content topics into either an HTML5 output or an ePub output. And CogniLore's product can take that and either using their own resources or an approved vendor like DCL, they can create the extensions to fully support some of the additional features that Andre just mentioned, so that they can turn it into a completely automated process. But because each person's or each company's implementation is somewhat different, that's why there can't be sort of a one-size-fits-all out-of-the-box implementation of this. There's a set of predefined tools that either CogniLore's team or DCL's team or another approved vendor can finish up the configuration to fully automate that process.
Great, thank you. The next question has come in is, does the application only support DITA data model, or will it support a standard CALS data model?
Well, I'll extend that a little bit to say, well, what types of source formats do we support? And the quick response is that working with an organization like DCL, we can support practically any type of content. The HTML5 presentation layer allows us to do things in a very flexible way. So we can do very complex tables, for example, CALS type tables that have a lot of merges and spans throughout the content, or that are extremely wide within the material. We can support things like going from InDesign to professional eBooks. So the CTF product that I showed came in an InDesign format, and we used a custom script to export that content, preserving the page numbers, building our professional ebook in an automated fashion, and doing that final production. So suffice it to say that with the number of years of experience in creating these types of digital publications, we can work with whatever source format we're presented with and create some really compelling content for delivery to your users.
Excellent. Thank you, Andre. The last question has come in is, can you describe the process of getting DITA content into your solution?
So in this, in DITA in particular, we would do a content analysis as the first phase, so identify how the standard has been applied to your content, and what types of elements within that content are going to be particularly useful within a delivery system like professional eBooks. So what we're looking for there is how are we going to break the content down into its segmentation? What types of elements might be particularly well suited for contextual fielding, so that we can create search forms and advanced ways to get users to the information that they're looking for. So the first thing that we're doing is really trying to understand how users use the content, and how are we going to be able to tune the presentation to make sure that we get them to that information as quickly as possible. We'll then look at developing conversion routines that take us from that source format to that target in an automated fashion. And the reason we want those automated routines is because we want to ensure that as the content changes over time, we're able to just process it through that routine, generate those deltas and those differences, and deploy the updates to users in as painless a process as necessary. It's interesting to note that when we do those types of deployments, we can deploy to a staging site so that content owners can download to the app the updated version, make sure that everything is solid before deploying it out to the end user. And as well, by using Professional eBook as the deployment mechanism, we simply have to post to the marketplaces like the App Store one time, and then we can deploy the updates, we can deploy new titles to that app without having to go through the whole app approval process each time. It's also important to note that because we're deploying directly to the app is free for the users to download. But if you have a commercially distributed collection of content, you're managing that distribution to the user. So you don't have to shave off 30% to the App Store when you're selling your content directly to your end client.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
The next question that has come in was, how many documents were converted in the case study that took 2 years to migrate?
Dan, I'll let you
so the particular remember we started with a pilot project in that case, and so there was a documentation set that consisted of 5 manuals. Some of them were more user-based, some of them were more technical in nature, and so that initial pilot was 5 different types of documents. Now they're rolling into a much larger set that involves hundreds of documents that span multiple collections.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. And thank you, Andre, for this very informative webinar. And thank everyone for attending today. This will conclude today's broadcast. You'll be able to access the recorded version of today's webinar in the webinar archive section of our website located at www.dclab.com. Our next webinar
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Our next webinar will be Tuesday, June 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, titled When Conversion Makes Sense, being presented by Charles Dowdle, Director of Global Technical Service Information of ACO. Thank you everyone for attending and have a great day.